Hi, everyone. Good morning. All right. I just had a meeting with a group, and it was so interesting because during this session where we were talking about what's happening in their culture, what are some of the most recent statistics that we're finding, what are we finding in the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative, one of the people in the group said, "Oh my gosh, you should please put together a video sharing some of these key points with us so that we can actually share this with some of our executives and hopefully get some more support for doing some more work with the IEP methodology." So I thought I would not only do the video for them, but also extend it to you in case this is helpful to you. And I hope it is. So I'm Denise Kavanaugh. I'm the founder of the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative and the IEP method. I also wrote the books Contagious Culture and Contagious You. And I've spent the last 21 years working with organizations and leaders to really help them create more authentically positive leadership, more authentically positive organizations and cultures, more positive, contagious cultures, hence the name of the books, et cetera, et cetera. So, you can check out the YouTube channel. You can check out past lives. You can check out all sorts of stuff that we do. We do a lot of content. You can check out our blog. In fact, we just, there is a new blog post that is going to talk about a little bit about what I'm going to share here today as well. So make sure you check that out. I'll have Laura will put that in the notes for you so you can get access to that quickly. So if you like this content, please make sure you're subscribing, you're liking, you're sharing, etc. It really does help us a lot in getting the content out there more and serving more people, and ironically, in helping our algorithms so more of you see this. So, okay. So here's the scoop. This particular organization we were talking with, they are really wanting some help right now. The interesting thing, this is very common right now, what I'm finding is a lot of the people that are coming to us, to ACI Active Choices, which is our organization, a lot of the people that are coming to us, they're usually they're senior leaders, but they're not at the top. So the executive C-suite, a lot of them are super, super busy right now. You guys have got so much going on. That ultimately, sometimes it's the CHRO that's coming to us, or the head of people, head of design, head of culture. But more often than not, what we're starting to find, especially this year, is that it's people who are leading teams who are in that upper level of leadership, but not at the very, very top. They don't always have all the decision-making abilities, and they have to get sponsorship to get support from their leaders and funding to actually get help. So this is a little bit of a shift. I would say in the past, especially before the pandemic, more often it was executive leaders that were coming for help. Now we're starting to know a cry for help from that lower level of leadership because their leaders are so busy and so exhausted, they don't know where to start. So I just want to preface this with that. People are coming to us for help. They're the senior leaders in your company who are getting the stuff done. They've got a lot of responsibility. They've got the executive leaders they're reporting to, but they're also responsible for managing and leading the people below them. And then they're responsible for making sure the product is good and the design is good, and lots and lots of responsibility at that level. It's a very tricky level to be at. So they're often, I would say right now, 90% of the time, that's who we're hearing from. So that's an important data point. Your people are asking for help. And what's often happening is they come asking for help because there's challenges with trust, with collaboration, having a hard time with collaboration. There's conflict on the team. People are exhausted. People are having a hard time with the remote and the hybrid and the back to work and all that. And they're just having a hard time. And a lot of times these leaders are exhausted. And one of the most common things we're hearing right now is, if we don't get this handled, I'm leaving. So that's another important data point. I just think we're noticing more and more, and I'd be remiss if I didn't actually speak to that. If we don't get this handled, if our organization doesn't get this handled from a culture standpoint, if my leaders don't start to, help figure this out and prioritize culture and the way that things are running in the organization, I'm leaving. So that's another interesting thing. So what is happening is they come, they want to get support. We look at what's happening in the organization. We do maybe potentially a light diagnostic just to kind of see what is the level of psychological safety, where are they at on the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative scale. And then from there, we'll kind of go forward and look at, all right, here are some things that we could do to support this. And then often we get so far into the organization and then they get stopped. They get stopped by leadership, either busyness, it's not a priority, or there's no funding. They don't have the budget for it, so they're going to wait. So there's a lot of, we're going to wait until 2024 to address this. But the problem is this, they're waiting until 2024 to address this, hopefully just till 2024. But in the meantime, they've got their people burning out. In the meantime, they've got people that are actively looking for jobs. And in fact, I know this because we've had it now, I think it's 4 times this has happened this year, where the people who came to get help from us to bring us into the company to help the team actually ended up leaving. And in some cases came back to us and asked me for a job. So this is just an interesting thing to be paying attention to. It's not, I hesitated to share that. But I think that people are so busy right now, especially the leaders who are responsible for funding these programs and who are responsible for culture and whatnot. It's so easy to get so sucked into business results and finances and all the many things that we have on our plates. It's so easy to get sucked into that we can forget what's actually happening right in front of us. And what I just see more and more than in 21 years of running this company, what I see more and more of now is people are leaving. They are leaving the building. They are quite, if they're staying, and I've already done a video about this before, so we'll link that too. But if they're staying and sticking around, they're not really staying. They're leaving. They're looking for other jobs or entertaining other opportunities, or they're not, and they're sticking around, but they're not giving you 100%. So just outline that again. So you've got senior leadership coming for help that don't necessarily have the ability or the power to get the help. So they need sponsorship from their senior leaders. Those senior leaders are too overwhelmed and busy and focused on other things to actually create the time, the space, or the budget to address it. And then you've got that middle level of senior leadership that's starting to leave. So I think that's really interesting. Here's the other thing that's happening. We are heading towards a very interesting challenge. It's not a challenge. It's like a business extinction possibilities, not to be dramatic, but hear me out on this one. You've got your executive leaders, many, I don't like using the terms like boomers, but boomers, many older executive leaders who are going to be retiring in the next couple of years. You've got a lot of it. We're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of executive leaders that we've actually been involved with through the years in companies that are retiring. They're on their way out for a lot of different reasons. Either they've just gotten to the point where they want to retire, or the company's doing a reorganization and it's just time for them to go. But you've got your senior leaders who've known the company for a long time. They're leaving. So who's going to fill their spot? Maybe you bring somebody in from outside the company, but then you're actually spending a lot of time, energy, money, and time and resources to get them up to speed. So you lose all that institutional knowledge. So really what you want to do, if your executive leaders are retiring out, you want to make sure that you are bringing your internal leaders up. So ideally your senior leaders would be going to the next spot. Here's a challenge that companies have that I don't know if they realize they have this. The ones that are paying attention, you guys realize it, but a lot of companies do not see this right now. Those senior leaders that should be filling into the next level of executive leadership, your senior leaders that should be going up, they're exhausted and they're starting to burn out, and they're starting to think about leaving and going and doing other things, and they're starting to lose interest. So we've literally had people who in succession planning who know that they're next and who are changing their mind. They're changing their mind. They don't know if they want to step into that role because that role is exhausting, and they watch what it did to the last leader that was in that role. And so you're losing that next level of leadership that's supposed to be going in your succession planning. You may be losing those people and you don't even realize it. So that's going to happen over the next couple of years. You're going to start to have a leadership gap there. Okay. Who's going to lead your company? Who's coming in with the institutional knowledge to lead your company? Who's going to come in with fresh ideas to lead your company? Well, good news. Who's coming with fresh ideas to lead your company? Let's go to another generation. This is the younger workforce. They're coming in. And what we're finding is if they're under like 35, 40 years old, and especially younger than that, they're no longer tolerating the kind of leadership that's been okay for a lot of companies up until this point. So now you have a younger level of leadership coming in who are new. They don't have the institutional knowledge. They don't have the leadership skills. They don't have that sophistication that's really important to lead your company. And so they're going to need to be trained up. But here's the other challenge you're going to run into is they need to be trained up, but also they're not going to tolerate an unhealthy culture. They're not going to tolerate not feeling safe to contribute. They're not going to tolerate drama. They're not going to tolerate or the kind of drama that gets created when those things are missing. There's a different kind of drama that they're going to tolerate, but that's another video. So they're not going to tolerate drama. They're not going to tolerate a lot of the stuff that we are used to people tolerating. It just doesn't work anymore. Their devotion to their values, their devotion to purpose, their devotion to having a life they love, it's stronger than ours was. Like, I hate to say it, but they're not going to tolerate it. So we're seeing that too. So now you've got executive leaders going, you got senior leadership who's like, I don't really know if I want to do that anymore. I think I want to do something different. Or, whatever. Or they just totally burn out on you. And then they still go into, anyway, we won't even go down that route. And then you've got the younger level of leadership that's coming in. That's like, I'm not going to work for a company that doesn't pay attention to this. So those are two big reasons. Just looking at your leadership pipeline, looking at your leadership pipeline for upcoming leadership and succession planning, looking also at your current leadership situation, where if you're not tending to things like culture and psychological safety and creating inspiring, purpose-driven, energized environments, you're going to be losing people. Or, as I've said before, worse, they stay and then they're just not engaged. The other thing to be paying attention to is the impact that all of this has on your ability to innovate and to create amazing products and services. So if you are not paying attention to things like culture and leadership and people and human-centered stuff, really, if you're not paying attention to that, then what that means is you probably do not have a good level of psychological safety in your company. If you don't have a good level of psychological safety in your company or on your team, what that means is that your people are not going to collaborate ideally. That also means they're probably not going to feel safe to give each other feedback. So when projects are going off the rails or the quality of something isn't really good, they're not going to say anything. We've literally watched people let projects run off the cliff and create major expense in the company and major disappointments for clients of that company, those companies, because the team didn't feel safe enough and empowered enough and skilled enough to give productive feedback. Well, in order to give productive feedback, you have to know how. You have to have a good relationship with what that feedback process is and what feedback actually means. And you have to have the courage to be able to have those conversations. So if you're not tending to your people and you're not prioritizing this as something you got to get on right now, then you're delaying quality work. You're delaying innovation, and you're, again, creating less and less psychological safety, less and less company, which, as we're finding, nobody really wants to play in that realm. It's just very interesting to me to watch this. I feel like I'm watching something just kind of fall apart. It's really interesting. It's just kind of falling apart, and it doesn't have to be this way. And then the last thing is this: you've got people that are super exhausted. There was a study that was done just this year. I'm just looking at it right now, and it estimated, this was from Grammarly's State of Business Communication study in 2022, and it estimated that we've got a $1.2 trillion loss a year in businesses due to poor communication. That business leaders lose an estimated 7.47 hours a week, almost an entire day, due to poor communication. And that adds up to an estimated loss of about $12,500 per employee every year, at least. I think that's really, really conservative. I don't know if that number's right, but that's what they've got. 76% of leaders say that the team is spending too much time and energy resolving miscommunications. 75% say they're spending too much time and energy resolving communications. And businesses with 15% or more employee turnover are 34% more likely to say their team struggled with communicating effectively over the last year. So that's just communication. Okay, that's just communication. So now we're talking about there's the finances of that, which is pretty significant. There's the time of that, a day of your time, because you guys are not communicating well. You don't have direct engagement. You don't have psychological safety. People aren't present. They're not focused, not being intentional about their communication. There's a lot of misunderstandings. That's a lot of time, energy, and money. And then take that and ripple that out to the emotional impact of that, the frustration of that, the mental energy of that and how that impacts your people. That's exhausting. So these all are super, super important to be thinking about. So I've given you your leaders that really, really need support right now. It's important to prioritize culture and whatever you need in order to get your teams humming and people feeling like they're being led well and that they can communicate with each other. So that's got to be prioritized. I personally don't feel that that's something that can be pushed off until the next year. I think if you have challenges, you want to look at how do we start to address this right now. And you know, this was another thing that was given feedback to me today, just to start to be more bold about, is like, if you look at what it costs you to lose one high performing employee, okay, just in terms of losing them, doing all the rework that goes with that, hiring a new person, getting a new person on board. It takes 6 to 12 months for a person to really get into a job and get institutional knowledge and whatnot. If you take the cost of that, then the morale on the team around them, it's generally 1.5 to 2.5 times a person's salary to replace them. So just look at that number for yourself, whatever that might be. You take, you know, you're losing 2 or 3 high performers every 60 days or less. That's pretty significant. So when you look at that versus the cost of actually digging in and starting to do something that is going to help address those problems that would keep them there, to me, it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. So that's the first thing. Get your people help now. The second thing is you got to work on your leadership pipeline. You got to nourish your leadership pipeline. You're for those of you doing succession planning and you're all excited about it, that's cool. That's great. Really want to invite you to look at what kind of environment, psychological, physiological, all that, leadership environment, cultural environment, are you leaving for the people who are going to be stepping into your positions? Because if they're stepping into a position that's not awesome, hopefully they have the energy to change it, but there's a good chance that in the next couple of years, they're just going to say, I'm not doing it. So just pay attention to that. And then of course, you've got your incoming workers. They're needing a different kind of leadership and attention and care. So for those of you, I literally had somebody say to me recently, culture is not my problem. They're the head of the organization. Culture is not my problem. I don't pay my people to take care of themselves. I pay them to come and do their jobs. Cool. Got it. And culture is totally your problem. Culture is a we problem. Culture is a we problem. So you want to get on that. Innovation, creativity. If you are a company that's saying you truly want to be innovating and building great products and great services and all this stuff, but you're not investing in it and you're not creating the environment and the circumstances for your people to really do that, you have a problem. You have an innovation problem. So you can get on that. And then lastly, just the exhaustion and the cost that comes from not having good communication skills and good courage and skill sets to engage directly so that you can move forward. You know, conflict is so misunderstood because people say they want to avoid conflict. It's like conflict's bad. Conflict's awesome if it's productive. Conflict's fantastic if it's productive. In fact, if there's not conflict, I get a little bit concerned because that means everyone's just saying yes to everyone, and you probably don't have your most innovation going. So you or your most awesome innovation and creativity and all that stuff going. So you do want a little bit of conflict. You just want to train people to be in relationship with it and to feel safe enough with it that they can really have healthy conflict. So those are just some things to think about. I hope this is helpful for the people I was with today. I hope it's a little bit of a good recap. I love the dialogue that we were able to have around it. It was very, very juicy. And may this support you in getting some additional support. And also may this support anybody else out there that is maybe struggling with or dancing with some of the stuff I just talked about. If you would like to talk about any of this directly, happy to have a conversation with you. We do work with organizations to create genuinely positive energy workplaces. And it doesn't mean that we're shooting for the moon and everyone's going to be dancing around all day long and super, super happy, but we do want to help you take small steps or big steps or whatever steps necessary in order to get you to the next place where you have a really healthy organization. You guys can do your best work together. So if you'd like to talk about that, please feel free to reach out. In fact, let's put a contact information up there. There's contact right there. Just send an email or go on the thing there and we'll go ahead and get you set up and you and I can have a conversation and see if it makes sense to have to explore doing this work with you. So have a beautiful day. I will talk to you soon. And thanks as always for being here. Bye.